let's talk about the Trump administration, the Trump movement. Firstly, let's go over some of the factions of it. Firstly, we got the MAGA bros. What can you tell me about these MAGA bros?
Well, the first battle we have in the Trump administration is between MAGA bros and tech bros.
That is true.
And the first kind of battle that we get into in the Trump presidency is H-1B visas, which are for specialized employees from other countries.
Or so they say.
Yeah. As the MAGA bros will say, it's kind of a scam. And tech bros will argue that it's needed because it's helpful for them to grow their economy and grow their company and get people to come here that usually we can't get Americans to do these jobs because they don't have the right education or they're not specialized enough. And, we're seeing that both sides are arguing, or one side's arguing that's not true. Other sides, like Vivek Ramaswamy on the tech bro sides, to summarize his point, he said American IQ here, go on with it.
The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans, not Native Americans, Native Americans, isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. It comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. And if we're serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth.
So this is the side of Vivek Ramaswamy, and what he's trying to lay down the foundation for is these H-1B visas are needed because Americans are lazy. We don't have enough IQ.
Right. We're going out to party instead of staying home and studying.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a crazy thing I saw. I read from him. And do you know the movie Whiplash? Have you watched the movie Whiplash?
I watched it a long time
but
ago. Barely.
The movie Whiplash, basically, it's about this guy who plays the drums, and he's put in this abusive relationship, like teacher-student relationship with this jazz conductor.
Yeah.
And he basically goes through hell and high water just to please the guy and achieve excellency. Gets into a car accident, runs to the stage all bloodied up just to perform, puts everything away, destroys everything just to be good at playing the drums. And basically what Vivek said was, oh yeah, a movie like Whiplash, that's what we should be aspiring to. That's what we should have our kids be doing. That's disgusting, firstly. And if you want to say that's a cultural thing, that's just wrong. That's just abuse. And I think Vivek Ramaswamy is a complete fool for saying these things. He wants to say that, he's proud of America, America first, but then says, oh no, we can just, basically replace many qualified Americans because of the cultural issue. And there's a lot of people outside the country who are probably better, which I believe is completely unfounded. Most Americans think it's unfounded. Polling found that about 60% of Americans think that there's an adequate amount of people in the U.S. who can do these high-paying, well, we'll talk about the high-paying part, but high education necessity jobs, which brings to another point of whether or not these H-1B visas are actually being abused. According to some people, Steve Bannon and others, these visas, beyond the fact of not always being used for actually highly educated, I don't know what the right term is, highly educated jobs.
I think it's more what you see from the MAGA bros is that, and even Bernie Sanders echoes this, is that the view is that they're used to undercut American jobs that could be high paying, that are specialized, but the companies use this H-1B visa to get people from other countries and undercut them in specialized industries.
And,
so, yeah.
And it's important to realize that with these workers who are coming from abroad, these H-1B visa workers, they're beholden to these companies basically for their livelihood while they're in the U.S. So they'll take whatever pay that they get. If they get, abused, if they get undercut themselves, if they get, basically tossed around, they just got to deal with it because the alternative is getting basically deported back to the country or having to leave.
Yeah.
They're basically trapped. And, people talk about techno-feudalism, people talk about which way capitalism's going. This is some form of literal indentured servitude, in my opinion. If you're not beholden to these companies, you just get tossed aside, you get basically kicked out. You have to keep up with these companies because of H-1B visas. And this is what these tech bros love. They They want this because they want the cheapest labor. They want to be able to have these guys work 80 hours a week, which, by the way, I don't believe is indicative of hard work. It's indicative of an abusive work culture.
Yeah. But going back to this, let's look at Trump's views over time. Because in 2016, Trump released a statement while he was running for president: I will end forever the use of H-1B visas as a cheap labor program and institute absolute regulation to or requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program. No exception.
No exceptions.
And then we get to 2020. No one can compete with American workers when they're giving a fair and level playing field, which has not happened for decades.
Seems like another win for the MAGA bros.
Double down, double down. And in 2024, we see, I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. This is him, of course, referring to H-1B visas. And then he also talks about how he has many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used them many times. It's a great program.
Sure, they're some of his greatest workers.
They're some of his greatest workers, as he put it down. So it's interesting to see that, I guess, kind of this is one of the ways to highlight the Trump change, really, from 2016 to 2024, of a more, not isolationist, but what's the better word for it?
I mean, I wouldn't say isolationist. I just think he's opened himself up to be more amenable towards the tech bros who want to exploit foreign workers, basically screw over the home American. I genuinely believe that this goes everything in the face of the America First movement, the MAGA movement. It's a massive spit in the face. People are not economic units. You don't just trade them around and move them. People are part of countries with, distinct identities and cultures and needs. And when you're a leader of a country, you got to put your own people's needs first. To have the H-1B visa program be so abused and be in such a state where a tech company can use the H-1B visas to get around hiring Americans and instead hire some foreign-born nationals with precarious education levels in order to basically exploit them for extra hours for less pay, directly hurts an American who could be working that job and being more fairly compensated. And I think it's a total disgrace that this is such a debate. And I'm not saying, completely roll it back, make it zero, but the fact that Trump has basically bent over backwards for the tech bros on this matter, I think is completely abhorrent.
Yeah. And for example, some people say the solution for solving this is making minimum requirements for those visas to be paid more. It kind of saying, like, if you really can't find an American-born citizen to do those jobs, you can get your H-1B visas, but you have to pay them right, because coming and having them be paid way less is wrong.
But it even goes into this question of, like, what is paying them right? Because there are instances where these companies would actually put out a job offering at a wage that most people will not take because it's not reciprocal to the amount of work that has to be done. And then the companies go, oh, well, we couldn't find any foreign-born Americans. We
Native-born.
Sorry, we can't find any native-born Americans. We got to go foreign. We got to go abroad and find them. And this is just not true. You're telling me the numerous Americans coming out of college every year with these high-paying degrees, these computer science degrees, who everyone's joking about being going to be homeless in a couple of years. They're not. They're all getting jobs and they're just not picking your jobs. It's complete utter falsehood. That's not true. I don't believe that.
Yeah, and I mean it's a really interesting battle, because there is times where we need H-1B visa or H-1B visas.
Of course.
And then there's times where you're like, wait, I thought we had all these CS majors. What do you mean? Then they're being hired. Oh, because they're being replaced with people from other countries from H1 from H-1B visas.